I'm Rachelle Wilhite, the designated broker of Best Choice Realty. We're going to go ahead and welcome you all tonight to our class on time management. I don't believe I went through our YouTube channel. I don't think we have time management, no time like the present. I think that's kind of a good slogan for tonight. But I want to talk very openly. We have a fun quiz that we're going to do on this session. So if you have a piece of paper, go ahead and take a piece of paper out and go ahead and number it. I think 15, just give it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go ahead and write all the way to number 15 and you'll just get an answer with an A, B, C, or D as we go through the quiz. So if you want to get that started, I'll get us started with just some opening. If you do have questions, go ahead and put that in the chat. But we will have maybe some time at the very end for some questions. But I'm going to talk very openly. Somebody asked me at one of our team masterminds, Rachelle, how do you manage your time? My goodness, you have all of this going on. How do you keep your sanity? And some days are better than others. I'm not perfect. I actually did the quiz. And even with all of the training that I've had on time management, I didn't get an excellent score. I got a good score. So I think there's always room for improvement. So hopefully tonight you'll get some tactics and some tips that might help you in moving the ball forward next year. Others have asked, why are you doing time management in December? My gosh, this is like the worst time. I think it's actually the best time when you really can reflect on how you did this year and what you can do better next year. So this is a great time to talk about that. Let's go to the next slide. So everyone wants to be successful, but this slide, I love this slide. I found this on, I think, maybe it was Facebook as I was scrolling through. It was everyone wants to be successful until they see what it really takes. And some days I feel like the right side, and other days I feel like the left side. But it takes work. And all the things on the right, lead generation, open houses, these are all things that it takes to be a successful real estate broker. You have to be good at doing all of these things, and you have to be able to manage that in your time. And so tonight, hopefully you'll get, if you want to take a quick screenshot, that's what it takes to be successful in real estate. You're doing lead conversion, you're doing training, you're doing open houses. If I was to build out a perfect day or perfect week or a perfect month for any of you, it most likely would have some sort of combination of some of those things on the right-hand side. But to get results, it takes work and it takes preparation. Let's go to the next slide. So I've got some fun rules to remember in a fun picture. I don't usually share this picture because it is it's very sentimental to me, but it also has a lot of motion tied behind the picture. The picture has my husband. Somebody asked, I've never seen a picture of your husband. I don't know why they have not seen my husband, but he's not actively in the offices anymore. He's actually in my home and taking care of my 3 children. But this picture is on the left side is my husband and the right side is my father. And in the middle of this space is a remodel that we were doing. This is before I had the companies. This is before I was in real estate. I was actually selling for a company. I was a team leader. I was taking on a lot, just like I am now. But I walked into this little exchange between my husband and my father trying to solve a problem. This was a plumbing problem. So if those of you have done plumbing projects, it's not easy. And we had to tear this all out. And this was between the bathroom and the primary bedroom in this little fixer-upper that we were doing. So some things I learned after this incident happened. My dad obviously wasn't looking, and I snapped a picture when Eric was like looking a little frazzled. He was not too pleased with the situation. But there are rules that I've learned from experience to how to keep your sanity and things to consider as you're building out your time management or your business plans. So the rules that I have uncovered, these are just kind of my 5 takeaways that I've taken from this incident that happened. I won't go into detail. Many of you can ask me later about what happened during this little remodel project. But that life goes on your calendar first. So you'll want to make sure that you, as you're sitting down with your calendar, planning January out, that you plan those things that are life altering. Life is too short. My father no longer is alive. And so if I was to go back in time, I may have planned a little bit more of my life with my father. I was actually out showing homes when all this was taking place. And so some things that are very important, like with my husband and my father working together on this project, that probably would have been a good opportunity for me to be there and be present. So life goes on your calendar first. Block off time sometimes to do nothing. Every week I do block off time to do nothing, to just sit and think, or not have my phone turned on, or and it's not that long, but if you looked at my phone for the week, it would usually be a block of time in Sunday where I definitely do nothing. And that is very important as you plan a very, very busy schedule, hectic schedule throughout the week. I still struggle with this, but this is another rule to remember is know when to say no. I am a yes person. I always have. Most top producers are yes people, but you do need to know when to say no. And so that is something I've learned as well. Uh, Obviously, family matters. Your personal time matters, or quantity with the family makes quality at work. That's something I've learned over time. So if you focus on those rules, that even if your time management or you fail the quiz today, if you remember some of those five things as you're foundationally thinking about your next year and your management of time, it will go a long way. So you won't have an incident like this that's very emotional for me when I talk about this remodel project and how it went down. Let's go to the next slide. So the problem is really, I think a lot of you need to kind of reset your thinking. The problem is not a lack of time, but rather a lack of direction. So some of you may need some help with time, or you think you need time management, and really it's not time management. We all have the same 24-hour clock. It's you lack direction in what to do with your time. So number one, the first step in effective time management is really to set clear goals and priorities. If you haven't done that, how am I supposed to help you with direction? And then the second thing is decide what you want to do. Some of you maybe don't know, and that's okay, but how are you going to accomplish it? Or how are you going to get what you want or get where you need to go if you don't decide first what you want to accomplish? And then plan your time accordingly and follow a plan. That sometimes that's where it takes a little bit of structure, maybe takes an accountability partner to help you. But I like this book. This book I'm in the middle of right now. It's Awaken the Genius. I just tried to order another one for a friend of mine, and I don't think it was sold out on Amazon. So I think it's a good book. Awaken the Genius. It's talking about time management, and it really is this. It answers this problem. It's not a lack of time. It's really what are you doing with that time? How are you present in that time? And I like the philosophy that he gives. Let's go to the next slide. So in real estate, I would consider there's four aspects of time. And it's kind of fun to kind of think about this because as you're building like a kind of a schedule for yourself or kind of planning and preparing, it's four types of time in real estate. There's four times, and now I'll start with the letter P. So you have personal time. Some of you spend a lot of personal time in the last 12 months, and maybe that personal time is why you haven't spent as much time in real estate because you maybe been traveling for maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. And that's been a lot of personal and pleasure. And so then the real estate is basically the preparation, the presentation when you're actually in real estate has suffered or taken a back seat. So a combination of all four of these P's is what makes somebody very successful in real estate. Somebody that can take personal time and have pleasure most of the time working with people, having that pleasure time, and they get excited working with other people. Preparation, having time, some downtime to actually prepare before you do presentations. You are looking at the most amazing person that I know, and Candace Frazier. I'll put her on the pedestal tonight. She has managed, I don't know how she does it. She manages her personal. She just got back from a nice vacation. She's definitely prepared when she shows up for her appointments, and she does a phenomenal presentation with her clients and with all of you. So if I was to model somebody or say there's somebody that's fantastic, and she probably gets an excellent, maybe not, on the time management quiz we're going to do in a minute, would be Candace Frazier. So how does she do it all? She's balancing these four P's and doing it very, very well. Personal, pleasure, preparation, and presentation. Let's go to the next slide. So there's a laws of time management. I've talked about a few of the kind of the best of Rachelle, what she's taken, but these are laws of time management. Generally speaking, you can obviously learn from them. You got the Pareto principle, focusing on the 20% rather than focusing on the 80%. Mackenzie talks about 1 minute of planning saves 5 minutes of chaos. I love that one. I sometimes go into appointments, and if I have not done just that 1 minute of planning, then it will be chaotic. It's that kind of that rule of time management. So definitely if you're feeling like you're chaotic or the appointment didn't go well, you may want to go back to Mackenzie's principle of time management and go, you know what, I maybe should have planned a little bit better before I went into that chaotic situation. Anytime I'm dealing with a broker matter for any of you where I have to call and deal with a very sensitive matter or a challenging situation, you guys know I deal with a lot of that in a day to day, especially on Monday. I seem by the end of Monday, it's a battle. But I will always, before I pick up the phone and have that really tough conversation, I will spend 1 minute. It's going to be a 5 minute phone call where I know I'm going to spend 5 minutes with somebody. I'm going to do a 1 minute of planning on the front end just before I go into that. It's getting your mind focused and helping you keep control of the situation and be on offense rather than on defense. So that goes a long way. And that Mackenzie principle is something I've really taken to heart as I've managed some very difficult situations. Parkinson, sorry, it's a quick typo there. First, he has two principles: work expands to fill the time. And then the second one is work is completed inversely proportion to its importance. So what that means is that some people spend way too much time on things that don't matter, and they should spend more time on things that matter. And so that's that kind of somewhat like the Pareto principle, but a little bit different spin on it. Drucker is somebody that I've followed for a while, and I'm still learning how to delegate. But I would say that over the last 10 years, I've done a much better job of delegating to the least paid competent help. So realizing what my hourly is, and Candace can help you with that in your business planning to know what your hourly work is really at when you look at how much you get paid for the deals that you do, and then delegating to people that need extra support or extra help. And that's how we did form Best Choice Realty. I delegated well to part-time assistants when I opened Best Choice Realty, and I delegated some of that administrative time. In fact, I called them office administrators. Some of you may need to delegate to virtual assistants or maybe delegate to a transaction coordinator. That will also help you in getting your hourly up as far as the time goes. And then I love Covey. Covey has obviously a lot of books and self-help things that he's written about important versus urgent and working within that quadrant. So that quadrant is kind of summed up, and I want to just go to the next slide because it talks about the quadrant more in detail. Actually, it's after the time management because it kind of goes through those four things. So let's take a moment and have you guys read. Hopefully you can read on the screen and just answer, hopefully on your sheet of paper. Those of you that joined us late may want to just write down number 1 through 15, read the question, and just kind of answer quickly as to how often do you take work home. Means if you have a problem in real estate and you go home and you talk with your husband or your spouse or your significant other, or maybe you just are dwelling on it while you're in your home space, how often do you do that? Is that A, every day, B, 3 or more times per week, C, twice a week, or D, once a week or less? Go ahead and answer on your piece of paper, just put it A, B, C, or D, and then go to the next question. And it shouldn't take you longer than 5 minutes to really fill out your piece of paper. Those of you that are watching the video, you could probably pause it at this point in time and just go through the quiz. And if you fail the quiz, don't feel bad. It is a quiz that's illuminating. Candace, what number are you on?
I'm finished.
Okay, very good. Well, she's definitely mastered. I'm at the 5 minute mark, so pretty good. Shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. If you're dwelling on it too much, might mean we need to set a timer and finish something. So that's great. Let's go to the next slide. So your time management score. So now as Candace is scoring herself, she's going to give herself 1 point for the A, 2 points for the B, 3 points for the C, and 4 points for the D. And then it's pretty easy for you to score that. 4 points for the D, 3 points for the C, 2 points for the B, and then 1 point for the A. Yeah, and Shannon, can you go back one step? There's a couple people that need to answer a couple more. There we go. Thank you. Got it scored okay, Candace?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I could double check and make sure I get this right. Let's see here. So three, six, three.
I got a good score on mine. So what I will say is that I mean, there should be very few of you that are excellent. If you are, pat yourself on the back. But there's always room for improvement. And I think by doing this quiz, you can see where you maybe scored yourself. And those are areas where we talked about the principles early on that may help you. You might want to go back and look at some of those principles and actually kind of really internalize them and how you can maybe change things for this next year. Let's go to the next slide. Hopefully I can point in the right direction because I have done this exercise with many people before. But really where it comes down to, I see people struggle with the quiz is in understanding the quadrant. And Covey puts it best, there's 4 quadrants. There's these 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think what happens with just the inertia of real estate and personal things that happen in your life, what happens is that these 4 quadrants that Covey talks about, the important, urgent, the important but not urgent, the urgent but not important, and the not important but not urgent, the percentages kind of get out of whack. And so what I would say is if you're going to write down, take your piece of paper and write it like 4 quadrants. Each quadrant has important and urgent, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, not urgent. And each of those goes in each of those quadrants. The important urgent, about 10% is what should be spent in that. 40% in the important but not urgent, 40% but the urgent but not important, and then the not important, not urgent. For whatever reason, you're going to have to do some of these things, even if you don't delegate, but that should be about 10%. So you got 10, 40, 40, and the 10 in each of those 4 boxes. So when you really look at your time and how you manage your time, different things will creep into your day, such as I've got to deal with this broker that's yelling and screaming at me, or this issue with escrow because it didn't record and release. That would become important and urgent for you to take care of that. It's a real crisis if we don't close today because all of the moving plans are delayed. So it's unavoidable, unforeseeable, do it now. 10% of our day would be spent in the important and urgent types of things like that. But if you have important, urgent things that happen maybe 40%, or you spend 50% of your day doing that type of work, then that's where you become very unbalanced. And same thing goes with these other quadrants as well. So the important but not urgent, it needs to be done but now, plan and delegate if possible. So those, obviously you're spending a bulk of your time doing those types of activities. Those are showings, sometimes it's important, but I wouldn't say a showing is, can we move it to a different day? If something happens, that would be important, but not urgent, a showing appointment, but it needs to be done. So we may have to figure out how we can get it done. One of our agents in Idaho, she all of a sudden got sick, pretty sick, and she had appointments scheduled. So we actually were able to delegate that showing to another broker that worked in that same area. So that would be an example of important but not urgent, where we could delegate if possible. And that was 40% of your day should be in that kind of bucket. The other one, urgent but not important. These are rush jobs. These are unexpected problems. A lot of you get stuck in that quadrant, and that's because it's lack of planning and prioritizing. That's oftentimes why you end up landing in that bucket, or you got kind of off kilter, is because you need to have better planning. I think, Candace, you learned this even last year, maybe 2 years ago, where you actually blocked out some day on your calendar every week for planning your week, right? Can you
Yep.
share a little bit about that with everybody?
Yeah, so once a week, and well, at first the date was kind of, I just felt like it didn't jive with how I did my planning. And so setting aside a day, a time, and a day that you can actually kind of reevaluate your week too. We all know we have things to do, we have tasks to handle, and then there's things that are going to come up. But that window and blocking it off, making it a non-negotiable time frame that you can just kind of mentally recap for the week is so imperative. And that's what I did.
Awesome. So, and then plan better, and then you delegate some of these things if possible. The last one would be not important, not urgent, and that sometimes um, it's hanging up the Christmas decorations in the office. So, not important, not urgent. Sometimes you can delegate that, and that's providing income for somebody else that may be not at your level. I mean, I'm just going to say it bluntly. Or it's running to go drop off something at somebody's house. It's not important, not urgent, but it should be delegated, and that could help support somebody. It's the professional cleaner that you have at your coming to your house to clean. I know that feels good when Candace was able to clean up her office, right? It's not as important. It's not really urgent, but she paid somebody to actually come in. And I mean, that just gives you a boost in the other three quadrants, right? When you're able to delegate that 10% of that day for her. So that's another example of that. Let's go to the next slide. I think I have a couple more things. Nope. That was it. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions. That's 5:58. I knew it would take about a half hour. Is there anything I need to go back to, Shannon or Candace?
It looks like in the messages is somebody who wanted you to go back to the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, before we get to that, Rachelle, why don't we run through like a typical day or a typical week even for a real estate agent through these different type of quadrants, so that way they can kind of get a feel of like, what does a typical week look like for a successful real estate agent?
Okay. So important. So you're going to have it should go back to the slide with the ballet slipper.
No, sure.
Yeah, back to the beginning. So you take these items right here: lead generation, open houses, for sale by owner calls, follow-up, script practice, training, door knocking, networking, appointments, marketing, lead conversion, business to business, meaning go and meet with people, and negotiating. That would be contracts. So we could take all of these items and basically put them into a quadrant. So lead generation, is that important? That would fall into not the negotiating would be 10%. If you're negotiating something that that's like, you can't delegate that out. That's all you. So that would go in the top 10%, that quadrant. Lead generation definitely goes in the important, but it's time sensitive, but it needs to get done. Open houses. So then basically you're taking these items right here and you're putting them in the appropriate quadrants. So to build a schedule for yourself, You definitely want planning to be part of that, like Candace talked about. But you do have to kind of find some of these lead generation appointments. I would say that I always made it a goal for myself to have, again, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? What your goal and what your priorities are. But if I wanted to have 3 sales a month, formula for me to have 3 sales a month would mean I have to take 3 different clients out or connect with 3 different clients per week. So that was a total of 12 clients that I was working with in a month in order to have 3 sales a month. So if I want to back that off, you can do the math, and that math works really well. In order to have 3 appointments a week, it would take me 3 conversations a day, speaking with 3 different clients every single day in order to have 3 appointments every week. And that goes whether for buyers or sellers. And that was my formula. And I shared that formula with a lot of brokers along the way. And that formula, I don't know if Candace, if you could attest to that, but that was my formula. It worked every single time. So you kind of work backwards. What are you trying to accomplish? What's your goal in real estate? You want to do 1 deal a month. What does that take? Well, it's going to probably not take 12 appointments in a month. It might only take a third of what I was doing. Make sense? Candace, you want to?
I just sent over to Shannon. I don't know if you can share that, but that is kind of something that I've looked at and not necessarily copied verbatim, but has been helpful for me. That looks a little bit different than mine because I'm a full-time employee, but I'm also doing real estate. So mine looks a bit different, but like a full-time employee, this is a good one to, full-time real estate agent. This is a good one to look at. Shannon, are you able to show that?
That's great.
I think I got it here, Candace.
Oh, there you go. There you go. The cell system. So if you guys can see at the 8 a.m., 8 to 8:30, blocking out that personal time, that window of time that you can kind of plan your day, reevaluate. Things might need to change around a little bit based on, maybe a phone call that you received last night. Example, I, had a message today. So looking at my calendar today, is a referral. And it's like, can you connect with this person? So I connect with her, and I literally spoke of tomorrow. My day is pretty much full until 4:30 p.m. So would you be available anytime tomorrow after 4:30? That was perfect. So tomorrow I'll need to, or maybe even this evening, go in and just kind of update that for my calendar because it wasn't there before, but, just making sure that you have your time for problems, issues, lunch. That's important. Take your lunch, take your time to eat, and, be clear of phone calls. I think I know some others that have just a block period. So on Saturday from 9 to 2, that's just set on my calendar for my listings and showings. And then on Thursday and Friday after 3 p.m., that's specific for showings. So kind of create something for yourself. And then I think it's really important too, where you have that alternate day. It's by appointment only, figure those days out, make a non-negotiable day that is for yourself, your friends, your family, and other things that we need to focus on so that, we can get through all of the others. Your coaching time, you can plug in open houses. I've talked to a lot of agents and shared with them, ideally you want to be really consistent with open houses. Plug it in your calendar and know that you're going to do at least 4 open houses a month. And so open up that calendar to plug it in. So Saturday and Sunday over the next 2 weeks, I will be doing open houses, and make that time set so that it doesn't kind of get missed. Consistency is key. And once you start doing it, it's really easy to speak to it as well. Like my clients understand, and I think they respect the fact that in my buyer's presentation, my listing presentations, I'm not available on Sundays. That is the one day that I, kind of dedicate to my faith and my family. They respect that, they appreciate that, and they know up front. So if it does run into that situation that I want to make it an exception, that's there, but I can count free that every Sunday I am available to dedicate that to my faith and my family.
That's
So
great. This is a good sample. And if you guys want a blank one, we have, I think I have one that looks very much like this, Candace, where they can plug and play. So if you need that, we'll see if we can put that up on the resource website by Friday. I think we can commit to doing that. So that if you wanted to actually kind of mess around with the kind of calendar like this or this type of time, it helps some of you, especially if you're new to the business, to kind of get familiar on like, what should I put in? There's power hour, there's coaching calls, there's homework. I mean, if you really are committed to full-time real estate, this is the kind of stuff that it takes to become a top producer. I'm looking at this. This looks like a top producer block of time, right? Right, Candace?
yes, oh yeah, for sure.
It's got a good blend of personal time versus preparation time, as well as presentation time, and also some, just the regular preparatory stuff, the personal stuff. This is great. Thank you for sharing, Candace. That was awesome. Okay, Candace, Shannon, anything else?
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot of this stuff on here. I think what I like about this thing that Candace actually shared is that follow your time schedule 80% of the time. It's like every week can be a little bit different, and giving yourself grace when it's important, but it's important to have a structure behind you. So that way you know what you're doing every day. You wake up in the morning and you're like, I know what's going on today. A lot of the successful agents we have, they do that. And I actually kind of like these great targets they have on here too. I feel like right now, a lot of people that are doing well have done a really good job of the business to business in real estate, where they've like, okay, let's focus on my past clients, referrals. Let's have that connection with the credit union. I mean, these are all stuff that used to work 7-8 years ago. And the ones that have doubled down on that have done really well in the last couple months. And then impactful, like basically everything needs to be impactful that you're doing, even if it's something simple like lunch. The ones that they have on there is business lunches, and then lunch. It's like, let's make 2 birds, 1 stone. I love that.
Exactly.
But
There's
also not doing it every day.
I would say that there are 10 things. There's an article that I'll also have Shannon post that's really good. It's the 10 things that basically prevent us from having the perfect sales system. Is we fail to stop and think. We maybe multitask too much. That actually is a real thing. We work without breaks. Obviously, having breaks or lunches helps with, keeping things moving for us. Number 4, demanding perfection. It's not perfect. I like that it addresses that on this little sheet here. Number 5, worrying and waiting. What am I really worried about? Some of you are worrying and waiting way too much, and it's preventing you from moving forward with your real estate business. Number 6, hooking up to the tube. I know Eric just told me he took off his social media off his phone. That's a good thing. If somebody is struggling with time management, sometimes unhooking from TV, from social media, it actually helps in getting you recentered, refocused. Number 7, surfing too much on social media or websites. I know my son, who's 18, that's where I've got to, he knows when I go in, I'm like, I think we're unbalanced now. He knows that mom's thinking about him and how he manages his time. But he'll spend way too much time watching YouTube. He's a YouTube generation, baby. Number 9, killing time in transit. There's much better things you can do. And that's number 9 is what I'm trying to do better at, is instead of listening to music, which is also nice. But if I'm driving an hour plus, there's much more things I can be listening to, or calls I could be making during that transit time. And number 10 is spending time with negative people. That's the number 10. And luckily, I do less of that in my life right now. But some of you, that might be the issue you're finding with your perfect sales system or your perfect schedule. It could just be the people you're surrounding yourself with. So maybe make a New Year's resolution to change that up in next year. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you all of that jumped on tonight. Hopefully that was helpful. And we'll post some of these things on our resource website for you to dive into. Have a great night.
Have a good one.
See ya.